I was standing in my backyard when a deputy read out loud, "Stop work. No entry, no contact," and for a split second the entire neighborhood went silent. 2 contractors froze at my locked gate, and the HOA president, who'd been holding her phone up like she was filming a victory lap, forgot to smile. That was the moment I knew this had gone way past a petty HOA dispute and straight into something that was going to change her life and mine. I didn't move at first. I just stood there on my patio barefoot on warm concrete, listening to the echo of those words. Stop work. No entry. No contact. They sounded unreal, like a line from a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was my house, my fence, my pool. And the woman who'd spent weeks trying to bully me into sharing it was finally being told in public that she had no power here. A few weeks earlier, none of this felt inevitable. Back then, my life was quiet in the most boring way possible. I'm an architect. I like clean lines, solid plans, and things that make sense on paper. My wife and I bought our place for one reason above all others: privacy. We built a fenced backyard, tall and solid, with a pool that stays locked because our insurance company insists on it, and because, frankly, I don't want unsupervised kids wandering back there. It's not an amenity. It's not a community feature. It's private property. The HOA had always been background noise. Mowing schedules, holiday lights, the occasional reminder about trash cans. Then Karen Whitmore became president. The first time I met her properly was at the mailbox cluster. She slid in beside me like we were old friends, all rehearsed warmth and bright eyes that somehow didn't quite reach her face. She told me people felt excluded. She said my pool could be a neighborhood asset if I'd just stop being so closed off. She actually used the word asset like my backyard was sitting on a balance sheet somewhere. I told her calmly that my pool wasn't an amenity. It was private property. She nodded like she understood, smiled like she agreed, and then said, "We'll revisit that before walking away." I remember standing there thinking that was odd, but I let it go. That was my first mistake. That night, her first email hit my inbox. Notice of violation, drainage obstruction, easement interference. The language was urgent, official, designed to scare. Immediate access required for stormwater maintenance. Attached was a grainy photo of my fence taken at an angle that made it look like it was blocking something important. I read it twice, then a third time. Something about it didn't sit right. There was no instrument number, no reference to a recorded easement, just authority assumed and declared. So I did what I always do when something feels off. I documented it. I saved the email as a PDF, captured the headers, forwarded it to my personal archive with the timestamp in the subject line. Then I replied once in writing asking for the recorded easement instrument number and the HOA authority supporting any demand for access. All communications in writing. I also sent the same request by certified mail because certified mail turns denial into a receipt. Karen replied within an hour. Discussed at next board meeting. Compliance expected. No document. No instrument number. Nothing. I photographed the certified mail receipt, printed her reply, and added it to a growing folder on my desk. I didn't know it yet, but that folder was going to save me. At the next board meeting, Karen held up the photo of my fence like she was announcing a natural disaster. She said we had an emergency situation. She said I was blocking drainage access. She said the HOA would ensure maintenance proceeded. I asked one question calmly into the room. What is the recorded easement instrument number? She didn't answer. She tried to move on. I asked again. Did the board vote to authorize entry onto my private property? She talked over me. That's when I realized something important. She wasn't confused. She was counting on the fact that most people don't push back, that most people fold when faced with official language and social pressure. 2 days later, the fines started. Daily penalties, late fees. The phrase "lien action" bolded at the bottom like a threat carved into stone. I won't lie, that shook me. I sat at my kitchen counter with that notice in my hands, coffee going cold, and for the first time I wondered if this was going to cost me more than it was worth to fight. I wondered if I was being stubborn, if maybe I should just give in, take down a section of fence, let them through, keep the peace. That doubt crept in slowly. Late at night, when the house was quiet, when my kids were asleep and my wife asked gently if everything was going to be okay. I told her yes because I needed to believe it. Then my driveway camera pinged. It was a Tuesday morning. A maintenance truck parked by my side fence. 2 contractors walked the line. One tried my gate latch. And there was Karen standing outside my fence with her arms crossed, pointing at a panel like she owned the place. Through the camera audio, I heard her voice clear as day. "Remove that section. We need access. It's authorized." Something in me went cold. I didn't run outside. I didn't yell. I called the non-emergency police line and requested an incident report for attempted unauthorized entry. I wrote down the incident number. Then I called a licensed surveyor for urgent boundary marking. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Rachel Klein, and she didn't waste time. I sent her the video clip with the timestamp visible, the HOA notices, the certified mail receipts. She drafted a cease and desist and a formal trespass warning and served Karen and the management company by email and certified mail. Karen's response wasn't to back off, it was to escalate. She blasted out an email titled "Community Alert Stormwater Emergency," claiming I was obstructing maintenance and announcing self-help remedies if I didn't comply. She was trying to turn my neighbors against me to make me the villain in their inboxes. That night I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the ceiling, feeling something close to defeat. I remember thinking, what if she's right? What if I missed something? What if this ends with my name dragged through the mud and my savings drained by legal fees? For the first time, I thought about giving up. The next morning, the turning point arrived in the most boring way possible, an email from Public Works. Rachel had filed for a temporary restraining order and requested the subdivision's stormwater plan. When that plan came back, Karen's story collapsed on a map. The drainage easement ran on the opposite side of the block, nowhere near my fence, nowhere near my pool. I printed it, highlighted the easement location, and sent it to Rachel. Then, almost on instinct, I searched the county permit portal for Karen's name and the HOA's name. That's when I found it. A permit application submitted under Karen's name listing the HOA as the owner of the strip behind my fence. Attached was an owner authorization signature that wasn't mine. I stared at the screen for a long time. This wasn't bullying anymore. This was misrepresentation. This was a lie laundered through bureaucracy and stamped with false authority. I screenshot everything, downloaded the attachments, and emailed them to Rachel with the time and date in the subject line. Then I called code enforcement and reported the misrepresentation. They gave me a case number. I wrote it on the folder. Everything had a number now. Everything had a timestamp. When Karen came back with the contractors, she added an HOA attorney this time. Polished suit, leather portfolio, the kind of confidence that assumes surrender. What she didn't know was that the surveyor had already marked my boundary with stakes and flags. I'd photographed each one with location tagging on. I had printed copies of every document. The deputy arrived first, calm, neutral. Then code enforcement pulled up with a tablet. The contractors suddenly looked very aware of where they were standing. Karen pointed at my fence and said, "Officer, he's blocking emergency drainage access." I said, "I'm requesting enforcement of my trespass notice, and I have documentation showing the easement is nowhere near this fence line." I played one clip, 10 seconds, no edits, her voice ordering the fence removed. The deputy's expression changed. Code enforcement pulled up the permit and asked Karen if she owned the property line. Her attorney leaned in and whispered something urgent, but she tried to answer anyway. I handed over the stormwater plan and the plat. The inspector compared the documents, looked at the contractors, and said, "This is not the easement location. Do not touch the fence. Stop work." It was immediate, public, irreversible. Karen arrived performing certainty. She left bargaining for silence. That afternoon in court, her side tried to frame it as urgent safety. Rachel laid out the timeline. The violation notice without an instrument number. My certified requests. The fine threats. The neighborhood email promising self-help. The video. The stormwater plan. The permit that misrepresented ownership. The judge asked one question. Where is the recorded easement instrument number authorizing entry here? There wasn't one. The restraining order was granted. No entry, no contractor contact, no self-help enforcement. The HOA had to pause fines, withdraw the lien prep notice, and issue a written retraction correcting the false emergency claim. Fees followed, and a directive that the board review whether Karen had acted outside her authority. When the order hit my email, I saved it in 3 places and printed it. The HOA tried to stall compliance with vague language. Rachel replied with one sentence, "This does not comply." 2 hours later, the real retraction went out. The board held a special meeting without Karen controlling the microphone. They restricted the president's unilateral enforcement powers. My fence stayed where it was. My pool stayed private. And Karen, she sat in the front row, arms locked, staring straight ahead, while the authority she'd abused tightened around her instead. When someone tries to rule your home with fake authority, the only way to win is with real records.